Hi, I'm the Scrub and you're here for one reason. This might actually be the Warrior of Light's wet dream. Instead of getting to kill one god, they get to kill 12 gods. It's like all my name days have come at once! Oh, I don't get to kill them? I'm just fighting them so they can gauge my strength? Well, if it's strength they want, it's strength they'll get. I'll call this a warm-up for when I next commit deicide. Time to learn about Aglaia. Simplified. Head up the stairs and follow the path around to the first jump pad where you will run into the first boss, Byregot. Since Byregot is the purveyor of architecture and industry, I'm going to bring out my best crafting skills to make him a nice coffin to rest in. But we don't have any stacks of inner quiet, so we can't receive his blessing. Ordeal of Thunder is a room-wide AoE. The first time this is performed, there will be a narrow purple AoE around the wall of the arena. Touching this wall will give you a 15-second undiscernible electrocution dot tick. Byregot's strike will target one random alliance member with a blue knockback circle at their feet. You'll need to position yourself to be knocked towards the open area of the arena to avoid being knocked into the wall. Alternatively, you can use knockback immunity to nullify the push. If you stand in the blue AoE, you will get a hard hit and a vol stack along with a knockback. He will command that you bend the knee and cast Byregot's Ward. This is a conal cleaving tank buster, so unless you want to know how it feels to be a piece of metal between an anvil and a blacksmith's hammer, don't stand with the tank. Before the next Byregot strike, he will cast Byregot's Build, which will create 4 yellow electric conal AoEs from his position. These will be in front, behind, and to his sides. These will move with Byregot to the knockback AoE as the strike cast finishes, so you'll need to position yourself to not be in the front, the rear, or the sides of this AoE from the direction that Byregot is facing the AoE. Getting hit by any of these conal AoEs when the knockback goes out will give you a vol stack. Byregot will then teleport into the middle of the arena and create straight line AoEs on the west and east sides. This is a non-damaging hit that will change the arena into a narrower one with no walls, so you need to make sure that you avoid backflipping to your doom. He will say, "To me, O Hammer Divine," and create 5 swinging hammers on the sides of the arena. When these hammers stop swinging, they will hit part of the platform in front of them and move the squares over one space. Players will not move, but the ground beneath them will. For the first one, you can just stay in the middle part of the arena and you'll be safe. If you manage to have the part of the arena be pushed out from underneath you, you will fall to your death. Byregot will create a hammer that will be impaled into one square. It will create a straight line AoE from north to south through its position. You'll also need to watch out for the hammers on the side, as this will normally push the straight line AoE across one square. For this first one, you can stand with the hammer as it will be pushed away from you. However, if you see this phase more than once, you'll have to look to see where the hammer is and if or where it is going to be pushed to. If you get hit by the hammer's AoE, you'll get a vol stack. For the third and final set of hammers, Byregot will move to the northern end of the arena and create a 3 square wide AoE called Byregot's Spire. You will need to get to a square that won't be in an AoE. The problem is, of course, that there are more hammers that are going to move the squares across. So the easiest way to solve this is to look for which of the front 2 rows of squares are completely in the AoE for now. Then wait on the opposite side to the hammer on that row. When the hammer pushes the platform across, it will create the safe zone for you. Don't go too early or you'll find out what it's like to be Woody when he doesn't want to be played with anymore. And if you're still in the AoE when it goes off, you'll get a vol stack. After this goes off, Byregot will return the arena to normal. After the arena returns to normal, Byregot will cast Reproduce. This will create 5 Byregot clones on one side of the arena. Look for which of these clones will summon to the sky and become imbued with yellow electricity. All of these clones will hammer the ground in front of them at the same time and create a set of small circular AoEs that go across the arena, which we call exaflares. The clones that have the yellow electric sparks will cause their exaflares to go off quicker than the others. The way to avoid this mechanic is to stand on the opposite side of the arena in the same row as a clone that is not electrified. When the fast-moving AoEs go past you, move into the row where they were to avoid the slow-moving exaflares. Getting hit by any of these AoEs will give you a vol stack per AoE you are hit by. From here, mechanics will repeat until Byregot has been defeated. Exit out of the arena and take the jump pad to follow the next path and arrive at the next enemy. Rhalgr's Hawk will become the next boss, Rhalgr's Emissary. The boss will turn to face a random alliance member and cast Destructive Static, which is a 180-degree cleaving hit in the direction he is facing. If you don't get behind him, you'll get a hard hit and a vol stack. It will then create a lightning orb above itself in the middle of the arena. This will split into 2 orbs and trace around opposite quarters of the arena. When it gets back to the middle, the quarters that are traced around will explode at an AoE. If you're still in this AoE when it goes off, you'll get a hard hit and a vol stack. So just move away from these traced quarters to be safe from the hit. As these are finishing, the Emissary will cast Lightning Bolt, which will put an AoE underneath the feet of 3 random alliance members. There will be 3 sets of these small AoEs, so just dodge away from them as best you can. If you get hit by any of these AoEs, you'll get a vol stack. Bolts from the Blue is a room-wide AoE. When the next set of lightning orbs go out to trace the quadrants, the boss will turn to a cardinal direction and cast Destructive Static again. This will cleave half of the arena immediately after both of the traced quadrants go off, so just get into the safe quadrant behind him to dodge both attacks. This is where it normally dies, but in case you have a low DPS group, the caster Boot Loop will cause medium-sized AoEs to appear on the sides of the arena that will expand into larger donut AoEs with each hit. Just dodge between them as best you can. And also Destructive Strike, which is a conal cleaving tank buster. When the boss has been defeated, make your way up the next path to walk across the teleportation pad to be taken to the next boss, Rhalgr. This is a unique platform. Gotta hand it to him. Lightning Rain is a room-wide AoE. Advent to the 8th will cause 2 of his chakrams over him to go to the north side of the arena and grow bigger. They will get 2 different coloured portals in the middle of them. Did someone say portal 3? The other 2 chakrams will stay the same size, move beside him, and get the same coloured portals in them. Rhalgr will then cast Hand of the Destroyer. He will raise one of his fists above his head. When the cast ends, his fist will be thrust through the portal and come out of the same coloured larger portal. His fist will cleave that side of the arena. So if his left fist is in the air, it will slam down and cleave the blue side, and if his right fist is in the air, it will slam down and cleave the orange side. You'll just need to move to the opposite to whichever side the fist is raised on in order to avoid the attack. If you look on the ground, you will see where the wavy blue and the orange auras meet. This will show you where you will need to stand in order to safely dodge the fist coming out of the portal. Getting hit by this cleave will give you a hard hit, a vuln stack, and a large knockback which could potentially yeet you off the hand and into the next dimension. Rhalgr will then cast Broken World. This will create a proximity marker on one of the northern points of the arena. You'll just need to move as far away from it as possible to reduce the overall damage to you. After it goes off, there will be a purple knockback circle in the middle of the arena with a series of green arrowed lines coming from it as he casts Rhalgr's Beacon. You will need to position yourself on one of the green arrowed lines, making sure that the arrowed line is being stopped by one of the raised fingers. This knockback will push everyone back a great distance, and the only way to stop it is to be pushed into one of the raised fingers. Failing to do this will cause you to become a physics experiment on Newton's first law of motion. Knockback immunity does not work for this mechanic, so you will have to position yourself properly. Rhalgr will then repeat the Advent to the 8th and Hand of the Destroyer, but this time it will be the opposite of whichever colour he didn't use first. So make sure that you get to the opposite side of whichever colour he will punch into. Destructive Bolt will be small AoE tank busters on all of the tanks. Tanks will need to spread out and avoid overlapping these, and everyone else will need to stay away from the tanks. The next Advent to the 8th cast will create 1 chakram on one of the northern corners of the arena. Rhalgr will teleport to this chakram and cast Broken World. This will create another proximity marker where this chakram is. However, you are going to want to stack in the proximity marker for what comes next. Rhalgr will cast another Hand of the Destroyer. It will punch through the portal and hit the meteor as it comes down, causing it to break apart into several smaller proximity markers around the arena. The safest spot for all of these proximity markers is up with Rhalgr, so that's why we stay up at the first proximity marker to reduce the overall damage. Following this will be another Advent of the 8th with the chakram in one of the corners, but also with another one up the north end of the arena. Rhalgr will then perform another Hand of the Destroyer cast, and you'll have to see which hand he raises. If it's the same color as the one in front of the meteor, then stand with the proximity marker because it will break the meteor. However, if it's the other colored portal, you need to make your way to the fingers on the same side as the proximity marker. This is so we can avoid the cleave from the fist and reduce the overall damage to us from the meteor. When this mechanic goes off, several alliance members will get a point blank AoE on them. Everyone will just need to spread out and avoid overlapping these. This is normally around the point where Rhalgr dies, but in case you see them, the cast of Bronze Work will be 2 sets of conal AoEs from Rhalgr's position. Just stand to the second set of AoEs that spawn in and move into the first set after they go off. As these are going off, there will be small AoEs underneath the feet of random players that you'll also need to dodge out of. And another cast of Rhalgr's Beacon will have an additional cast called Hell of Lightning. This will put small lightning orbs at the end of the fingers, so you'll need to reposition yourself to be knocked down the finger and avoid the lightning orbs, which will explode at a medium-sized AoE after the knockback goes out. From here, mechanics will repeat until Rhalgr has been defeated. Interact with the flame-wreathed portal to move to the next area. Head down the stairs, and as you approach the next arena, 2 flame portals will be summoned and 2 lions will jump out of them. Double Immolation is a room-wide AoE. The cast of Slash and Burn will cause the lion to get a point-blank AoE around itself and the lioness to get a donut AoE. There will also be dots above the heads of the enemies to indicate the order that these AoEs will go off. So if the lion is first, you'll need to dodge his point-blank AoE, then get into the donut AoE safe zone, and if the lion is second, you'll need to get into the donut AoE first, then dodge the point-blank AoE as best you can. You'll get a vuln stack per AoE you are hit by. The cast of Roaring Blaze will cause both lions to face opposite directions and create a half-room cleave in the direction they are facing. The enemies will again get dots above their heads to indicate the order in which these will go off. So just move behind the first lion and wait for their half-room cleave to fire, then move into this AoE to avoid the second cleave. The strat for this fight is to destroy the lion first, as when one of the lions has died, the other one will only perform their side of the AoEs, which in the lioness's case is the straight line cleave and the donut AoE. When both of these have been defeated, you can head up the next set of stairs and arrive at the next boss, Azeyma. Warden's Prominence is a room-wide AoE. Azeyma will move into the middle of the arena and create wide conal AoEs from her sides with the cast of Solar Wings. When these go off, they will create 3 flame orbs on each side of the arena. After a few seconds, these will explode in medium-sized circular AoEs. You'll just need to stay in the middle of the arena to dodge both of these. If you get hit by either the conal AoE or the exploding orb, you will get a vuln stack. Warden's Warmth will create 3 medium-sized AoE tank busters on all 3 tanks. The tanks will need to spread out and avoid overlapping these. And everyone else shouldn't stand with the tanks, as you'll find out just how searingly hot the Warden's Warmth is. Azeyma will move back into the middle of the arena and cast Solar Wings again. Be aware that she might turn 90 degrees and face the sides of the arena, so you'll need to quickly move into the safe zone. After the 6 orbs have been created around the arena, Azeyma will cast Sunshine. 3 clones will appear and move behind 3 of the orbs. These clones will cast Hot Air and move the orb 1 space across the arena when the cast ends, so you'll need to stand next to an orb that is about to be blown away from you to dodge the vuln stacks. Azeyma will then move back into the middle of the arena and cast Solar Fans. This will be 2 straight line AoEs from her sides in the direction she is facing. These AoEs will create lingering fans on the outside wall that will be spinning in place. Azeyma will then cast Radiant Rhythm and the fans will begin to orbit the arena, stopping every 90 degrees on the cardinal directions. The AoEs from the fans moving will also damage you, so make sure you steer clear of them. The fans will either move 4 or 5 times. When they are fully stopped, Azeyma will cast Radiant Finish. The fans will explode at a large AoE from their position. These fans will always be opposite each other, so if they are exploding in the north and south, you'll have to quickly move to the east and west to dodge the AoEs. And if they are exploding east and west, you'll have to quickly move to the north or south to dodge the AoEs. If you get hit by these AoEs, that will give you a Vuln stack. After another set of tank busters, Azeyma will turn to a random alliance member and cast Fleeting Spark. This will be a 270 degree AoE in the direction she is facing. The only safe spot is behind her. So if she turns around and says, "I've quite warmed to you," you'll need to get behind her as quickly as you can. If you don't get behind her in time, you'll get a Vuln stack. The cast of Solar Fold will create a plus pattern of AoEs from Azeyma's position. When these go off, they will create 4 small rectangles of lingering fire. Azeyma will then cast another Sun's Shine and spawn 2 clones of her that will be on opposite sides. You'll have to look to see where the clones end up on the outer edge of the wall and which way they are facing. This will be important for what comes next. They will begin casting Hot Air. As they do this, the rectangles will slowly begin to expand lengthways until it cuts the arena into 4 quadrants. If you run into one of these lingering AoE puddles, you get a damaging hit for as long as you're in this AoE. You will need to be underneath the clone, as when the cast of Hot Air ends, it will blow the fire from where it is and extend it into the quadrant that is away from the clone. So if you stand underneath the clone, you'll be alright. After a few seconds, the fire will dissipate. Azeyma will move into the middle of the room and cast Wildfire Ward. When this cast ends, it will create a lingering fire AoE with the only safe zone being inside the triangle in the middle of the arena. Touching the fire outside of this triangle will give you an 18-second unassumable burns dot tick. Following this, there will be 3 knockbacks towards each corner of the triangle, one after the other. The order that they are shown on the ground will be the order that they go off in. You will need to position yourself in the middle on the side of the triangle that will be hit first. Then, as you are knocked back, quickly reposition yourself to the middle of the next side of the triangle that will be hit, and then finally the third side after you are knocked back from that one. There is a bit of a trick to getting the timing right, but it's not that hard to do. At worst, you can take the first one, wait a second, then hit arm's length or shortcasts to nullify the pushes and avoid taking the other 2 knockbacks. Once all 3 knockbacks have happened, the fire will disappear and the arena will return to normal. The cast of Noble Dawn will create a sphere of flame in the middle of the arena. This will create several beams that will hit the ground 3 times in different places. These will expand into medium-sized AoEs and explode. The easiest way to solve this mechanic is to stand in the middle of where one of the third set of beams hit the ground and wait for the first set of AoEs to explode. Then move into those AoEs after they go off to dodge the rest of the mechanic. Getting hit by any of these AoEs will give you a Vuln stack. When the third set of AoEs explode, Azeyma will move to one side of the flaming sphere and cast Sublime Sunset. She will throw the sphere down on the side of the arena in the direction she is facing. There will be a proximity marker to indicate where she will throw the sphere. So you just need to get to the opposite side of the arena from where the marker is to reduce the overall damage to you. From here, Azeyma will overlap and repeat mechanics until she has been defeated. Exit out of the arena and head into the next area where you will meet the final boss, Nald'thal. As you pull the boss, the wall will get an orange glow. Touching this wall will give you a burns dot tick for as long as you're in it, which will turn into a 15-second unassumable burns dot tick when you step out of it. As above, so below is a room-wide AoE. This will also cause the arena to transition. The ground of the arena will get 2 different colored AoEs, one blue donut and one orange point blank AoE. Nald'thal will then cast Heat above, Flames below. You'll need to see what color the background is, which is the same color as the lanterns that are orbiting Nald'thal. Whatever color the lanterns in the background are, the same colored AoE will go off when the cast ends. So if they're blue, the donut AoE will go off, and if they're orange, the point blank AoE will go off. You just need to be in the opposite colored AoE in order to dodge the attack. Getting hit by either of these AoEs will give you a Vuln stack. This mechanic will repeat, and Nald'thal's top half will flip and change the color, so you'll need to avoid the AoEs as best you can. Heaven's Trial will cause 3 players to get a conal AoE with an icon over their heads, and 1 player to get a stack marker. The players with the conal AoEs will need to point these away from the rest of the party, and everyone else will need to group together to share the damage. Golden Tenant is a stacking tank buster, so the 3 tanks will need to stack together to take this. If there are more than 3 players stacked up, this marker will hit the 3 closest people to the middle of the stack marker, so just in case, best not to cosplay as a tank for this mechanic. Another cast of As Above, So Below will happen, and following this will be the cast of Far Above, Deep Below. 3 players will get a blue tracking arrow with their feet, and 1 player will get a yellow straight line stack marker. Everyone will need to group up with the player with the yellow stack marker, except for the 3 players with the blue tracking markers. These players will need to begin to spread out around the arena. Again, you'll need to look at the color of the background and the lanterns orbiting Nald'thal. Remember, this can change color halfway through the cast. Whichever color is shown when the cast ends, that mechanic will happen. So if it's orange, the stack will go off. So everyone in the stack just takes damage. And if it's blue, the tracking markers will go off. The players with the tracking markers will need to move around the outside of the arena and drop the AoEs away from the rest of the party. There will be 5 AoEs, so keep moving around the arena until they are all dropped. Getting hit by any of these AoEs will give you a Vuln stack per AoE you are hit by. Right after this finishes will be another As Above, So Below room wide that will be followed by the cast of Once Above, Ever Below. This will create 6 AoEs of each color on the ground. Each of these circular AoEs will have arrows indicating that this AoE will become a double set of exaflares going in opposite directions. Again, you'll have to see which color is in the background and in the lanterns, as these will be the color of the exaflares that will fire. And again, this can change with the flip of Nald'thal. To avoid the AoEs, you'll need to stand on the side in between the circles that will not be firing. This will be the safe zone for the mechanic. If you get hit by any of these AoEs, you'll get a vol stack per AoE you are hit by. Nald'thal will move into the middle of the arena, face a random alliance member, and cast Hell of Fire. This will be a half-room cleave in the direction he is facing, which will be indicated by the purple beams coming from his eyes. So you'll need to get behind him to avoid the vol stack and hard hit that this will give you if you get hit by it. Nald'thal will then begin to hover just over the arena and cast Wayward Soul. There will be sets of 3 falling balls at a time that will flash their AoEs momentarily, and these AoEs will be a little bigger than you're anticipating. You'll need to dodge all of the falling balls as best you can. You'll get a vol stack per AoE you are hit by. After 4 sets have happened, there will be a chandelier drop of these balls. So you'll just need to move around the outside of the arena to avoid all of the falling balls, and the mechanic will finish. Another Hell of Fire will happen, but Nald'thal will flip over and hit behind him instead of in front of him. So you'll need to get to the opposite side of the purple beams to avoid the hit. Nald'thal will move to the northern end of the arena and cast Fired Up several times. It will put down markers with a number of diamonds that will indicate the order that they go off. It will either show a pulsing blue circle or a yellow knockback and store that mechanic on these points. Nald'thal will then cast Fortune's Flux, which will activate the stored markers. You'll need to make sure that you're aware which ones have the knockback, as you'll be pushed away from these markers. You can also nullify the push with knockback immunity, and you'll need to make sure that you stay away from the ones with the blue pulse, as these will be a large point blank AoE from the position of where they were stored. Getting hit by any of these blue AoEs will give you a vol stack, so you want to position yourself to be pushed into the open area of the arena and away from the markers that have the point blank AoEs stored. This mechanic will repeat with 3 Fired Up casts. Again, make sure that you're pushed away from the blue AoEs or use the knockback immunity to nullify the push. The fight will normally end by this point, but in case it doesn't, Nald'thal will cast Soul's Measure. Nald'thal will become untargetable and the ad phase will begin. 3 glowing soulless clones will appear around the arena. Each clone will attach itself with tethers to one alliance. One of the people in the alliance will have their soul copied and merged with the clone. You'll then have to defeat the clone. Each soul vessel will target a random party member and cast Twin Gaze, which is a narrow conal AoE through where this person was standing. Just dodge out of this to avoid it. And their cast of Magmatic Spell will target one player in each party with a stack marker. Each alliance party will need to group up to share the damage. These stack markers will give a magic vulnerability up when you get hit by one, so you absolutely cannot overlap these markers. When all 3 ads have been defeated, the room will be split down the middle with a bright pink line. Everyone and the soul clones will get weights above their head. Nald'thal will then cast Balance and give everyone the debuff of On Balance for 12 seconds. People will need to spread themselves out across both halves of the arena to balance out the scales on the north end of the arena. You will need to do this before your debuff of On Balance ends. The soul clones cannot move and will count for 3 loads of weight, so you'll have to try and balance the scales as quickly as you can. If you do not balance the scales, the party will wipe from the ultimate and you'll have to start again. If you manage to balance the scales, the ultimate will be performed. When you return to the arena, everyone will have a damage up and Nald'thal will repeat mechanics until it has been defeated. Congratulations, you have completed Aglaia. My name is The Scrub. Thank you for watching.